News Channel. And tonight, our live broadcast is going to be about blind justice and surviving the Twilight Zone. I guess they're kind of connected, but justice is supposed to be blind, not the people that bring the criminals to justice. They're not supposed to be blind. So anyway, we're going to discuss that and repercussions that could happen because our law enforcement agencies don't want to do their job. But anyway, got to wait a couple minutes for people to show up in the chat. So if you want to go ahead to about 2 minutes, maybe around there, I'll start this. And then the next subject about surviving the Twilight Zone will be about 10 minutes in. So if you want to skip that stuff. But anyway, I want to do a video tomorrow night. I'm going to commit it to, we're going to talk space aliens. I want to do a fun video. Not that it isn't a serious subject, but not as serious as politics and stuff like that. So anyway, hey, how's it going, Carol? How you doing? I tell you what, I'm loving it out here on the ranch, but I'm going to be excited to get back home for a couple of days. I'm not giving up my farm, so have 2 places now, I guess. But oh yeah, it's nice being out here in the sandhills. But the part I'm at now, we didn't have as much water as the other ranch I was at, so we don't have the wildlife here like we did there and stuff. So I won't have a video of a hawk nest this year, that's for sure. It's pretty cool what I did last year with that, huh? All the way from when she was sitting on the eggs until they got big enough and they left the nest. Anyway. And then eventually when I start making money at YouTube, I can have a nice studio and stuff and make it look all professional. I can't wait. But I'll have to have a Hidden Truth studio and then my other channel studio. But I got the room for it. So anyway, we are 2 minutes in. So let's start talking blind justice. You know, the lady holding the scales, she's got the blindfold on because she's supposed to give justice out equally. No matter what you look like, no matter how rich you are, no matter what, we're all equal. Hey, how's it going? And the thing is the people that bring these criminals, that are in charge of bringing the criminals to justice, they're not supposed to be blind. Especially we got videotape and all this sworn testimony, and let's not forget that the Epstein list people, whistleblowers, are starting to die off now by suicide. But, I guess as long as the evidence never comes out, the crime never happened, right? I mean, you go and you don't wear a seatbelt. All I know is if she's got all this evidence, okay, send a cop out to arrest these people. Okay? We all need to be held accountable. How come I'm supposed to obey every law? You better wear your seatbelt. I mean, I don't break laws anyway. And I'm an old man, so I drive like an old man. Never in a hurry to get to my next accident. But, through your lifetime, most everybody breaks some sort of law. Especially when you're kids, drinking and stuff and driving. When we were kids, whatever. We don't need to talk about that. But we're letting these people they're just really bad people. I mean, the stuff that if we heard what was going on and the small stuff that we hear, we think that people could never sink to that level or become that type of animals, if you want to say that. And if they got all the evidence for this, then they're not going to do nothing about it. I mean, where's the justice? If Pam Bondi's kids or Kash Patel's kids have been victims of this, I don't think they'd have to have an investigation. They'd probably do the arrest and then do the investigation because they had enough evidence to arrest. But there's no judges that will sign off on arrest warrants for these people? Is that what's going on? The thing is, okay, the people in this country have the authority. And on election day, we gave that authority to the Republicans in the Senate and in the House and in the president to take care of the problems in this country. It's our last-ditch effort to do something using the ballot box before we had to use a cartridge box. We already got the courts trying to interfere with everything, thinking they're all powerful. Judges telling the president he can't do his job, whatever. But this lawlessness needs to, he wants to stop it. If Trump wants to stop it, your dopes fell for Trump again. Well, you know what? Maybe not all of us were Trump supporters, but he was definitely better than Kamala Harris, and that's just my opinion. You're allowed to have your opinion in this country. You know, I grew up in a time where Democrats and Republicans got along, even on election day or after election day. I want those days back. Okay? I'm sick of these days where we're throwing insults back and forth because, you know what? It's the thing to do. You know, and not because you don't support Harris doesn't mean you're a Trump supporter. I'm an American. I support the Constitution. I support what George Washington and the Founding Fathers stood for. What's happened over the last 250 years since then, well, I can't tell you, okay? 249 years. I can't tell you. But whatever, I'm an American. Like, I came from a time where Democrats and Republicans got along. So if you live in a time now where you can't get along with somebody because of the way they voted, I feel sorry for you because you're missing out on half your life. Anyway, but you go live and be miserable, and that's fine. Throw your insults. It works. You know, you're not many insults you can give this Marine that's going to affect me. I've been told the worst. COVID shot or boosters. I'm a pureblood dude. I never wore a mask, went the directions, the arrows. I never social distance. I never did none of that shit. None of it. And I lived in Minnesota at the time. Oh, I know why they didn't mess with me. Because being a Marine, I understood what the Constitution meant and realized what the Nuremberg Code's about. What's the Nuremberg Code? What probably came from Nuremberg, Germany after World War II, what said that no citizen of the world should ever be subject to medical tyranny. But we're not going to teach that no more. Anyway, no, pure blood. Sorry, sir. 57 and very healthy, cannot work 25-year-olds, so you go have your fun. But let's get back to the justice thing. This is what I mean, insults. Like the Shiloh Hendricks thing that's going on. The crime was the word, right? The crime wasn't this child predator at the park scoping out kids that their parents weren't there. That wasn't the crime. What would have happened? What could have possibly happened if Shiloh Hendricks wouldn't have said that word? Is it possible that there could be a missing kids report right now? Well, there should be because there isn't an autistic 5-year-old that they can produce. Blind justice. But everybody enforcing the laws are blind. They're blind, they can't see. But they can see if you're not wearing a seatbelt. They can see if your light's out. Dang right, freedom of speech. I was in the Marine Corps and I served. And I served for people that disagreed with me. Okay? When you're fighting, you don't care what a person's political beliefs are. That's why when all this goes to hell, all these little problems that we think we have that are big problems now are going to go away. Poof. And hopefully then everybody will see who the true enemy is against us people. And it's not us against each other. That's not the enemy. It's the ones who's pitting us against each other. Okay? And now If the Trump administration doesn't do something that we gave them the authority to do, us people are going to take it in our hands. All the parents out there of victimized children, they're talking about this child so victimized because he got called a name. What about all these kids that are missing that could be on hidden tape somewhere and no justices for them, right? Thank you for your service. You're a great American. We all are. The thing is, we're all going to be doing our service to our country very soon. Everybody needs to prepare for that. Everybody's time is coming to fight for freedom and liberty, or what you believe in. If you believe in communism and this country needs to be communist, you'll be fighting for that. Otherwise, you'll be on the other side fighting for our Constitution. Okay? You know, they always sent us overseas to do it. And I was motivated. How highly motivated do you think I'm going to be when I'm fighting on my own soil for my Constitution? And the biggest military in the world is all the vets they created over the last 35 years. That's just hands down. Anyway, but they need, if he would bring these criminals to justice and shut them up, if Hillary Clinton would get arrested, these big fish start falling, they'll just, woo, the whole thing will fall apart. But like I say, when they do that, it's going to decapitize a lot of countries' governments. There's going to be such a, I mean, it's terrible to think they need to be prosecuted. But the outcome of what could happen because of the power vacuums created in these countries, because these people see them for who they are. And if people don't want nothing to do with you, they're obviously not going to let you be in charge. It could be a really bad thing. You know, it could be Mussolini, 1,000 times over. Benito Mussolini. There, I got it out. And they don't see it. I mean, I see the repercussions of the list coming up, but you cannot allow this behavior to happen. You're in charge of making sure these people come to trial, to be prosecuted, to face justice. If you can't do your job, get the hell out of there. Every cop that I had an argument with always said, this is my job. If I'm not willing to do it, I'm not good enough to put the uniform on that day. So you're telling me that these guys, clowns, are going to go out of it? Try to cheat their job? No, there's not a time limit on it. People are demanding justice. You know, they're talking about the immigrants. There's still more coming in than that they're kicking out. And they're only kicking out the real bad ones. Criminals are criminals. It's not like if you sneak into Mexico, you're going to be treated real good. You'll be treated in a way where you'll never go back to Mexico again, if you survive it. Now, I'm not saying it needs to be like that, but we just need to enforce the laws of the land in all aspects of it, like we all follow. We all live our lives as lawful adults, treating our neighbor with respect, because we know that's what makes life go by easier. That's the way I live out here. Most cops just do their job because they want to keep their pension. Maybe if you're in a big city, I can understand that. But me being out here in the middle of nowhere, where the cops have a different mentality. I mean, when you live in counties that have a little over 1,000 people in them and stuff, really small counties, the cops are just different. They're friendly. They know the public's there to help them. Okay, it's a different mentality. And if they do get a cop in here that's got a New York kind of mentality, the people complain, he gets fired, and he's out of here. We live a simple, easy life here, and anybody who wants to complicate it, no matter what side of the law they're on, are easily figure out they're either going to conform or they're going to leave. And this is an area for people that want to be away from society anyway. Anyway, so let's hope justice is enforced. I want to see some walks of shame, big time. Now let's talk about surviving the twilight zone. Okay. Until we fix a problem, we live in the twilight zone. Because obviously the Republicans in charge aren't doing nothing about the censorship on social media platforms. They're not doing nothing. Yeah, they're saying, they're fighting them getting rid of transgenders in the military. And this thing, if you haven't been in the military, especially the ground side, being a cop is hard in video phones and media outlets. I tell you, I wouldn't want to be a cop. Why would you sit there and volunteer for a job to stop a car, especially out here in the middle of nowhere? I've seen Fargo. In the middle of nowhere, and come up to a car, and no, I'd have my gun out. I wouldn't be a good cop. It's very dangerous, and I don't think people understand this with cops. And you've got good cops and bad cops. But we really don't have bad cops out here because the people weed them out. Where, in the big city, they'll sit there and take anybody that will carry a badge because they're hurting so bad. And then having to go to domestic disputes where you got to keep your cool, even though people are screaming at you, and you want to arrest both of them and throw them both in jail. And you're looking at these kids trying to do everything to calm them down so they don't have to leave their kids. And emotionally, I couldn't sit there, in the Marine Corps, I didn't have a family. What's your view on these tariffs and personal have on effect? How about you? Well, my thing about the tariffs is I made a video about this. We used to be a manufacturing-based economy, okay? Things were made here. Walmart was started as American-made, remember? We didn't have to depend on the country. And for some reason, our politicians and big business decided they could get together and make more money if we became a consumer economy, where we were all spending our money, but money's not really being made here, you know what I'm saying? The hard assets, and they moved them all. This is all from the 90s and the late 80s when they moved all our economy, our factories and stuff out of this country. Now we're paying for our mistakes. And now we're paying in a time when nobody has any money. But how about, I hear Taiwan's going to bring factories to the United States, open up factories, chip factories. Well, I know the reason they're doing that because they realize China's going to take over their factories in Taiwan, so it's best to get them moved here. But countries need to come back here and make product. Okay, I realize you can't make product anymore like it used to last. On my farm down there, I still use a wringer washer made in the 50s. My electric stove was made in the 50s. Okay, obviously I can't take money and pass it on down if I keep using the same stuff over and over again. Tariffs is because we decided to live fruitless lives, going dead up to our buttholes, and send all our wealth-making capability out of the country. The chickens have come home to roost, like Reverend Wright would say. We got an economy that's been messed up for years. We're $37 trillion in debt. I hope everybody at every level is ready to experience some pain. Now me, I have no debt. My cost of living is about $700 a month. I live a very humble, easygoing life. Okay, I choose to live that way. I have less complications. Now, I don't feel the tariffs. None of that affects me because it would take a lot to affect my lifestyle where I could afford to live and buy the things I want. I don't have loans or credit cards. I can't imagine somebody who pays $1,000 just to look at their vehicle between a vehicle payment and insurance. Are you kidding me? And then you still got to drive it. How are you supposed to get ahead like that? Go save up money for 6 months and go buy a $6,000 vehicle that'll last you 4 years, and you maybe have to stick. Well, I can mechanic myself, so that's it. You see, skills saves you money. Anyway, so as the tariffs, whatever. Let's get back to the Twilight Zone. Okay, it's gonna go for 20 minutes, but I guess I'll go a little longer. But anyway, the Twilight Zone still hasn't shifted because Trump won't bring justice. These people in charge of bringing people justice won't, and these idiots are still allowed to be out there and like say you can fix all this and could snap people out of the Twilight Zone. But it's not going to happen. So we got to experience this until, us citizens decide we've had enough and we organize. What are we waiting for? We need our leader. And it's not Donald Trump. Our leader is going to be somebody who comes out as a humble man. Anyway, it's not going to be somebody in D.C. or somebody who wants to be in D.C. But surviving the Twilight Zone where men can get pregnant, you got to hear commercials on this stuff. People actually believe it. The divide in this country is unreal. It's because they're uneducated people. This is what happens when you have a couple generations of uneducated, indoctrinated, brainwashed children. And now they're adults acting like children, being told they were never wrong and never told they're always right. Okay? And just having to hear this stuff. If my history teacher would have told me, American history teacher, as a senior, I don't know why we had American history as a senior, but as advanced. But anyway, he was a Marine, track coach, football coach, athletic director. This back in the 80s. If he would have told me that the Constitution covers illegal aliens in this country that came in this country illegally, he'd got fired. Now it's being taught. These people actually believe that. All they got to do is make it to this soil illegally, and they're basically American citizen. Given all these rights and stuff. That's just one, okay? Our schools are a mess. People don't know what they got between their legs. Kids think they're animals and need litter boxes in the classroom and in the bathroom. I mean, where else can you go with that? I say Rod Sterling's looking up in heaven right now, but God, the kids that think they're furries, I could have made a whole series on that. They want to push it down our throats like we don't have any common sense. Now, gladly out here, if there are people like that out here, they're all in the closet like they used to be when I was a kid. Yeah, there were strange people everywhere. But they kept it in the closet. They knew what was socially and culturally acceptable. Okay? And we all have our quirks. But nowadays they videotape themselves and put it on social media, them breaking crimes and stuff. At least when we were young, right, Carol? We knew not to sit there and let everybody know we were breaking a crime. We definitely weren't going to sit there and advertise it for mom and dad to see on social media the next morning. Anyway, I'm glad I'm back out here because dealing in the twilight zone, it really irritates me. I have hope for humanity, but how am I supposed to have hope for humanity when humanity just embracing the most retarded shit possible? I don't know. But I know the only way out of the twilight zone is slamming the truth down people's throats, if necessary, and wake them the hell up. The happiest person in the world is a Democrat or a liberal, I'll say it that way, that woke up the next morning a conservative. Hey, I think I'm going to make that a short for tomorrow morning. Anyway, Carol, you have a good night. I am going to sit there and do my thing about space aliens tomorrow night. We're going to have a little fun. So, everybody have a good night. This is Tom with Hidden Truths. I'm out.